What's up everybody, welcome back to cilinixfxcapital. Hope you're all doing great and welcome to this new video in which we will discuss some trading education. And in this video I wanted to focus on how to actually accurately find bottoms. Now, look, I'll give you a framework, and this is a four-step framework in which you can actually, identify bottoms, or at least have a high probability that you know what's the bottom. But knowing the bottom is one thing, actually buying the bottom is another thing, and that has to do a lot with psychology, but also just in general when the confirmations come in. Sometimes, and you'll see that in the video, sometimes the confirmations of a bottom come in a little bit later when the price has already increased a bit. So in general, it's very difficult to buy bottoms, but they are still incredibly valuable to actually be able to recognize when a bottom is in, all right? Because a bottom means, at least for a short period of time, a reversal, all right? And a reversal is where you can make money. So like I said, there's basically four steps that I wanted to talk about on how to actually find the bottom. The first one is very simple, and we'll talk about this later, and I'll apply all these steps to an analysis, all right, where we can actually check out the bottom. But the first step is just to find a high time frame support zone, all right? Look, you will need some technical analysis skills for this. I have a whole trading education playlist in which a lot of the basics are taught. I also have a trading guide in my Signal group, but that's paid. So if you don't want to do that, then that's not an option. But links to that will be down in the description. But you have to find some sort of a support zone. All right, so whether that's, well, personally, I prefer to just find horizontal supply and demand in this case. It could also be a high time frame EMA. It could also be a trend line. But the normal natural key levels, support levels, seem to work the best and are also easiest to find, to be honest. So that's what you have to start with. And then second of all, you want some sort of a technical confirmation. Now this can be multiple things, all right? This could be a bullish divergence with the RSI at the bottom. It could also be some sort of a liquidation spike where we get a spike below the key level, after which we reclaim the level. So basically a huge liquidation event. It could also be, but this takes a little bit longer, that we see a breakout above the EMAs. All right, EMAs are the average price. So with EMAs, you can kind of see the trend. If we get a break above the EMAs from a bottom, then that's technical confirmation as well. But that's usually comes later. So that's look, you'll be able to identify a bottom, but usually that's much later. And then third step is you need volume. All right. You can have a high time frame support zone and you can have technical confirmation. Then it could be a local bottom. But if you really want to find a bottom from which we can reverse, you need volume in that move. And not only volume in the move, also volume coming in when the price actually moves up. But we'll get to that later. I have a perfect example for this. And then fourth, you want to preferably have some sort of a reason why the bottom is in. All right, so either Bitcoin is turning bullish, or we have some sort of news. All right, some sort of news, catalyst, narrative, whatever. All right, this is not necessary. However, it is definitely preferred. So let me do something like this. Well, so makes sense hopefully. But so this is not necessary, but it's preferred. But let's use these three, and let's actually use this in practice. All right. So the chart I wanted to use this for, where you can excellently see this, is actually Pepe. All right. So first of all, step one, we want to find high time frame support levels. So the first support levels you'll see on the chart if you do an analysis here, or at least key levels, are practically this zone. I'll do it a little bit, quick, so we don't waste too much time. But this is a rough analysis. Let's keep it at that. But you see a support level here. You see a support level here, and then you have to go back in time quite a fair bit, but then there's a support level here, right? So these are the support levels. Now, first of all, so these are the high time frame support levels. First time we actually found one of those strong support levels, what you saw there is that the volume was not very high. All right, and there was also no major technical confirmation. There's no liquidation spike. We were not able to break above the EMAs here, as you can see. On the 4-hour time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, we were able to break above those EMAs, but the volume was not high and it turned into a fake out. There was no sustainable break. There was a bullish divergence, as you can see. So you can see that sometimes You can actually find a local bottom using this framework as well from this support level, but the volume overall was relatively low. You can see the volume going into, like, the volume was quite high with the spikes down, but then there was barely any volume actually when the price moved up first, and then the only time we actually had another volume spike was when the price fell down again. So there wasn't a lot of volume when the price went up. Also with this last move, like, yes, there was some volume, but it was not that high compared to the volume we just saw about a week before that, which was much higher. So the volume was too low. All right, so yes, there was a high time frame support. We did not really get technical confirmation. I mean, yeah, all right, we did get technical confirmation with the bullish divergence from the RSI, but with the EMAs, we had a fake out, and there was no volume. So we go to the next major support level, and that was this level. And here you can perfectly see how you can actually identify this. Because what you can see is that not only did we have a bullish divergence where the price was making lower lows and the RSI was making higher lows, no, we also had that high time frame support level, so that was already step one. Then we had that bullish divergence, so there actually was, and a liquidation spike here as well, as you can see. We dropped down below the major support level and then reclaimed it, so that's two technical confirmations as well already. We got the third one right here, broke above the EMA. But what I found most interesting about this is that for the first time, basically since the 2nd of February, we had some sustained high volume. All right, and not only, like, we've had high volume before, but the 2 times before this, it was just when we had a liquidation spike. And this was the first time that we not only had high volume with the spike down, but also high volume with the reclaim right here, and then high volume with the first bullish move. So that's step 1. Step 2 completed. Now step 3, step 3 was also the volume, and that's what you can see. And we gained even more volume afterwards. So this was a clear bottom, all right? And what you can see afterwards is that the price has rallied a little bit so far. It looks like it's sustainable, so we can expect some more bullish momentum as well. But that is how you can identify bottoms. Now, this was on Pepe, so you might say that's a meme coin. It doesn't work on other coins. That's incorrect, all right? Pepe moves very similarly to utility altcoins, and in that sense, it's a normal crypto, I'd say. But yeah, so hopefully that helps. Hopefully the framework helps. Make sure to pause the video on the framework, write it down, and actually test it out with some coins. But for now, I think that's what you need to know, all right? So thank you for watching. I'll see you all in my next videos, and bye.